Hello, Creative Gems. Today we're going to jump straight making into our wall sconce that will be both beautiful and functional. It seems Dollar Tree recently expanded their craft section with a large variety of wood palettes, so I naturally grabbed a bunch of these wood palettes. They come in a variety of sizes and some of them also have designs and writing on them for different occasions. But today we're going to craft with this 2 foot long wood palette. You can see I have already started to paint the wood palette. I have chosen to paint this one white so our scones can look as bright as possible. So like I was saying earlier, Dollar Tree has really stepped up their game when it comes to wood materials for crafting. Although the wood is typically not the highest quality, they're definitely good enough to craft with. And today we're going to make a wall sconce with this wood palette along with other dollar store materials. But by the time we're done, people will think you paid hundreds of dollars for this wall sconce. And while we finish painting the palette, I would like to take a moment to thank you for tuning in to today's craft project. If you enjoy glam home decor and DIY crafts on a budget, it would help me greatly if you subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my glam home decor DIYs. And if you like what you see today, please give me a thumbs up as well. Your support will really help me continue providing you with more amazing and creative craft tutorials. And the best part is, subscribing and giving me a thumbs up is absolutely free, but will make a world of difference to me and my channel. Okay, with the entire palette painted, this is what it looks like. It took no time to dry as the wood basically soaked up the paint. Next, on to the next step, I found these fairy string lights on Amazon that we'll be using as one source of light. These fairy lights come with the battery included, and the battery pack is so tiny and discreet, so we'll be able to hide it and no one would be able to see it. And as I unwind the string lights, you can already get an idea of how long the string lights are. If you're interested in where to pick up some of these fairy lights, I'll leave a link down below to my Amazon store in the description box. In fact, everything I use for my DIYs are always listed in the description box, including where to purchase the materials and tools. And now that I have unwound the lights, the first thing I'm going to do is place the battery pack at the back of the wood palette towards the bottom. The little power switch is on the battery pack, so we'll still want it accessible. Next, I'm going to start taping down the string lights across the wood palette. There's really no hard and fast rule of where to put the lights, but just make sure that the bulbs are spread fairly evenly across the entire board. That way you can get an even distribution of light illuminating from the sconce when it's turned on. And here's what the board looks like now with the fairy lights spread across the board. Everything should be secured down nicely so the string lights don't move. And with the entire length of the fairy lights taped down to the board, we have a total of 4 rows running up and down the board. Now let's turn the board over. I'm going to temporarily tape down the battery pack to the board using two-sided tape. That way it doesn't move around while we work on the rest of the board. And on the other end of the board, towards the top, we'll need to position a hook so we can hang our sconce later. Now, you could probably use a command strip, but if you have seen any of my other craft tutorials, you'll know that I never have any command strips on hand. So we're going to apply our own hook using a hook from the back of an old picture frame. You may recognize this hexagon-shaped cardboard because it did come from the Dollar Tree. This one has a nice metal hook that we will cut out from the cardboard backing. And if you made it this far in today's tutorial, drop me a comment with the word hook so I know you visited. Next, I'm going to apply some Fix-All as well as hot glue to the cardboard piece as we will be adhering it to the back of our board. The Fix-All will provide a long-lasting secure hold while the hot glue will provide near instant hold, so we can continue with the rest of our project without having to wait for the glue to cure. Oops, I don't know if you guys caught that, but I glued the hook upside down by mistake. Good thing I caught that right away, or the hot glue would have set and then we would have been stuck. See how quickly the hot glue set? This hook is not going anywhere. That was a close call. Okay, so the next step is to build out a covering for the wall sconce. Believe it or not, but I'm going to make the covering with 2 of these chopping mats. The reason I chose these chopping mats is not only because they come in a pack of 2 for only $1.25, but because they're also translucent, meaning they will let through light. And the third reason is that they're very flexible so I can mold them into the shape I want for our wall sconce. Here I'm just testing out how the chopping mats will look like when I put them over the board. And then now I'm going to go ahead and measure the ends of the chopping mat so I can fold them over the wooden pallet on both sides. Will allow for about 3/4 of an inch. You could go to 1 inch if you wanted to, as long as both sides for each chopping mat is measured the same. And when we're done measuring, we're going to go ahead and fold those edges over to get them ready for positioning on the board. I'll place the first chopping mat flush to the bottom of the edge of the wood pallet. As you can see here, we'll have to move the battery pack slightly to make room for the folded chopping mat that we'll need to glue down. And to adhere the folded sections of the chopping mat to the wood pallet, we're simply going to use hot glue. I had my hot glue gun plugged into the wall for several minutes now because I want the glue to be extremely hot. The hotter the hot glue, the better it will bind the two pieces together. And when you apply the hot glue, try not to dispense the glue in clumps. You want the chopping mat to fold over and adhere to the wood as smoothly as possible. And when you have enough hot glue dispensed, press down on the folded chopping mat to encourage the binding process. You may want to use the flat parts of your fingers to smooth it down as well. Of course, make sure the glue has cooled down a bit so you don't burn your fingers. And when you have the first chopping mat bound to the board, also double check that everything is secured. If you see or feel any gaps, just add a bit of hot glue to those gaps. And if you have made it this far in today's tutorial, drop me a comment with the word chopping mat so I know you visited. And here I'm just repeating the same process to bind each folded part of the second chopping mat to the back of the board. It may get a bit tricky now though because the front of the board is no longer flat with the first chopping mat attached to it. You'll find the board with the chopping mat may roll around your work surface. If you have difficulties managing that, you could also stand the board up vertically while you work on the second chopping mat. In the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead and speed up this video so we don't make this tutorial too long. But I would be curious to know if any of you watching this tutorial have ever crafted with chopping mats before. So let me know down in the comments below if you're a crafter and if you have ever made anything with your chopping mats. And here's what the board should look like with both chopping mats attached. It doesn't look like much yet, but don't worry because we are going to dress it up. Beautiful roll of fabric at Dollarama while holiday shopping late last year. It's a silver glittered lace and is absolutely beautiful. What is great about this lace fabric is that it has the tiniest bit of stiffness to it, which will be perfect to work with for this project. We're going to cover the chopping mat with this fabric, but because it has a lace pattern with holes everywhere, light will be able to shine through, which you'll see in a bit. And see how it shimmers. I think this fabric is absolutely gorgeous and I can't believe it came from a dollar store. For the next step, I'm just doing a rough measurement and then I'll cut the fabric to size. You want each piece of fabric to be approximately the same size as the chopping mat, and you'll want enough to wrap slightly around the back of the board. When you have measured enough fabric to cover the first chopping mat, then cut the piece. Here I'm using my new Singer scissors. So I have a little story behind my scissors. First off, these were actually gifted to me by Creativdiy's Depot, so I want to thank them for sending these to me. I'll also leave a link down below in the description box in case you would like to purchase a pair. These scissors were desperately needed as I recall one time I was cutting fabric to make some pillow covers and one of my followers left me a comment mentioning how painful it was to see me try to cut my fabric using regular crafting scissors. And in case you guys are wondering, the crafting scissors I usually use are the same ones I use with my little niece when we do her arts and crafts. So I'm so glad I got these Singer scissors because they have high quality stainless steel blades with the right sharpness that allows me to cut a smooth edge without catching onto any of the fabric. This is especially important if you are cutting fabric like lace or anything with loose threading. But these being professional grade, they can also cut through heavier fabrics like denim and leather, which I can't wait to try. These scissors are also versatile in that you can use them for regular crafting for cutting paper, plastics, and other materials. I like how smooth my cuts are now, and they're so comfortable to handle because of the ergonomic design, and the padded handles make it extra comfortable to hold while cutting. So with the first piece cut, I'll just use it as a template to cut the second piece since they'll both need to be the same size. So we've got our two pieces now, and we're just going to double check the positioning of them first before gluing them down. Look how pretty and shimmery the fabric is. And if your pieces are a bit too long, like mine, just cut off the excess and then start gluing them down to the board. I'm using a tiny bit of hot glue because it dries super fast, but if you have more time, I would also recommend using some tacky glue. You'll get similar results, but the tacky glue will take a bit longer to fully cure. And as you can see, the hot glue has already bound the lace fabric to the board. Just make sure when you press down on the fabric to encourage it to adhere to the board that you do not use your fingers. Not only would it get really messy, but if you're using hot glue, you don't want to burn your fingers. For me, I sometimes forget, and now that I've burnt my fingers so many times, they've become almost numb to the heat. Okay, so now that the first piece is done, let's work on our second piece. It's basically the exact same process, so I'm going to fast forward this part of the video so I can show you what it looks like, and then we can get on to the next part of the project. In the meantime, if you have made it this far in today's video, drop me a note with the word lace so I know you visited. So with both pieces of lace fabric over the chopping mats now, here's what the sconce looks like so far. I'm not sure if the camera's picking up the shimmer, but it looks pretty with my camera light shining on it, but we still need to add some finishing touches to it. To further embellish our wall sconce, I found this chrome card trim. It has a mirror-like finish that will be perfect for our wall sconce. It actually comes in different sizes, but I think this one is the narrowest one. This trim has a self-adhesive backing as well, and you can cut the trim to size, so it's very easy to work with. I'll leave a link down below in the description box in case you want to get some for your crafts. I love using this trim as a border for many of my crafts. I love the mirror-like finish, and it really helps to upscale the look of my home decor pieces. We're going to go ahead and measure out two pieces. One piece will be placed at the bottom of the wall sconce and one at the top. This will give the sconce covering a more finished look, and the chrome finish will give it a heavier, more substantial look because you can't believe how lightweight this sconce is even though it's 2 feet long. Now, you'll notice that with the two chopping mat coverings, it doesn't quite cover the entire foot-long wood pallet. So we're going to cover the exposed part of the wood pallet at the top with something pretty. We could use this pearl bead ribbon. This ribbon comes in silver and is quite pretty. But for my sconce, I want something with a bit more of a heavy look, so I have decided to apply these mini mirror tiles, which can be cut to size and are self-adhesive. I have a tiny little bit of fabric sticking out, so I need to trim it off, and these smaller Singer scissors with a nano tip are perfect to get in and get a very precise cut. And because the mini mirror tiles is slightly smaller than the width of the wood palette, I'm also going to go back in and add a strip of chrome card trim on either sides to cover up the exposed painted wood. It's a small detail, but it will give the sconce a more finished upscale look. This is what our sconce looks like. But before we hang the sconce and test it out, I decided to add one extra functional piece to the sconce. Here I have a metal L bracket that I will simply hot glue to the back of the board. The metal actually binds to wood exceptionally well, and the reason why we are inserting this L bracket is so I can stick a puck light to it on the inside as an extra source of lighting. This is optional, but with the additional puck light, our beautiful wall sconce can be used not only for mood lighting with a soft, pretty glow from the fairy lights, but it can also be fully functional as a good source of additional lighting if you need more illumination in your space. I have glued on a small piece of magnet to the back of the puck light, so all we need to do is stick the puck light upside down onto the L bracket. The magnet will stick to the metal L bracket, and since the puck light weighs almost nothing, it will not fall down. All right, here's the wall sconce hung up in my bedroom. I have hung it vertically. I'll turn it on shortly, but I just want to show you how pretty the sconce is with the silver lace covering. The glitter on the lace actually shimmers so beautifully, but my camera is so old that I really don't think my camera is doing any justice to how gorgeous this sconce is. The sunlight coming through the window is literally bouncing off the little silver glitter on the lace fabric. In person, it looks shimmery and so very pretty. Let's go ahead and turn the fairy lights on inside. The fairy lights are giving a soft blue glow, and you can tell the way I spread the fairy lights across the wood palette. The lighting is evenly distributed, just as we had planned. The fairy lights don't necessarily illuminate the entire room, as it's really more just for mood lighting, but if you want more illumination, here's what the sconce looks like with the puck light powered on. You can see how much brighter the wall sconce is now. And although I chose to position this wall sconce vertically along the wall, you could design your wall sconce to be placed horizontally, say above a mirror or a console table. It's up to you what you prefer. And like I mentioned earlier, this wall sconce was made with a 2-foot wood pallet, but you could choose a shorter wood pallet or a longer one to suit your space and preference. Comment down below and let me know what you think of this wall sconce. Would you make one? And if you have made it this far in today's video, include a note with the word chopping mat so I know you visited. In the meantime, I hope you stick around and check out my other beautiful DIY home decor pieces.